Somewhere between tradition and TikTok, Kenya decided to break the internet this week. From men performing surgeries on themselves, to courts questioning billionaires, to people redefining relationship, one random visit at a time. Welcome back manze to the Rada Files. I am your host Kamakawa, Yo Frate! And on this side, we say it is the bitter things in life that matter.
Alafu madem, acha niwaibie siri moja. Kama wewe bado unapigianga chali yako simu ndo umtembelee, eti hey babe na come. Hey babe, naweza kuja? Come on. Umekuita mara ngapi? You're lying to yourself. You're wasting your time. Shari yako hufai kumpigia simu ndo umtembelee. Hufai kumwambia kama unaweza enda. What are you booking? Which appointments are you making? Kwani yako busy aje whereby you must inform him unaenda ndio create space? How many are you? Mko wangapi? Nyumba ya chali yako you must have access. Either ako ama yuko. Unafaa kumtembelea bila kumwambia sini wako, siweni wake. Unafaa kumtembelea bila kumpea information yoyote. Unafaa kuwa na access kwake, either ako ama yuko. Huyo ni mtu wako sasa. Lakini kama bado unapiga simu ndo uende, unaulizia kama unaweza enda leo usiku ama mchana. Come on. Unajidanganya. Chali kama ni wako peke yako, uta have access kwake. Either ukimwambia ama utamwambia, utaenda tu. Enda kwake hata kama hayuko, you must have access to his house. Akuje tu akupate ulishaingia, umempikia, umefanya kila kitu. Hiyo ndio relationship.
In America, this is known as breaking and entering. When you go to the European side, they will tell you that this is a form of stalking. But apparently, from this guy's lens of perspective, this looks like romantic spontaneity. What do you think? Let me know down in the comments below. For my opinion, I think it is just etiquette ama being courteous. When you can call somebody, arrange something, plan out, respect each other's boundaries. Other than that, this is funny. Can you really believe that this is what modern dating advice has turned into? Chaos with complete conviction.
Often argue with women when I tell them that men don't cheat as much as women, because for a man to cheat is very expensive. Like the most basic date that you can go, let's say that I have a lady called Susan. If you go to Java, the least you can spend there is maybe 2,000. If you go to a club, maybe she'll have like 4 guaranas, you'll have maybe 2 bottles of Guinness, some kanyama choma. That's really like 3,000 or 3,500. And you have to get a room. A decent room maybe is from 1,000 or so. For you to just go take out a lady out for a night, you need like 4,000, 5,000 in this economy. How many men have that kind of money? So that's why like it's very few men who actually control. You have like 10% of men who control almost 70% of all the sexual activity in the world because they can afford. Yeah. So the men who afford have a high access, and women are very selective with whom they sleep. That's just some broke men don't get lucky.
Finally, an economic theory for loyalty. Inflation hits and monogamy no longer feels like a prison. It now looks like a financial strategy. Think about it. In the West, people say you cheat because you can. But when you come to our area, we realize that men don't cheat because the cost is too high. Unaweza sema pia, it is economics being disguised as culture. Ama, what do you think? Baseline is that the black man does not cheat. He exercises his options. So, if this is a conversation about having frivolous fun, then This form of cheating is completely expensive, but if you are focusing on finding a wife, this looks like a brush off the shoulder because you know what you need to do in order to get to the girl. And since your priorities now have become straight, you will no longer chase for these frivolous things. In short, you will now focus on creating and maintaining certain forms of relationships. In short, najaribu kuambia hapo hivyo, you will not go to the clubs to look for the girls. You will look for your neighbor and create a relationship with your neighbor. The people who are usually in your vicinity, those are the ones you are going to create a relationship with. And these ones are the forms of relationships that bear a long term, inaitangwa aje, tutaita lifespan. But they usually go for the long term. Not the ones that you chased, an Instagram post, this chick or this guy has a great body kit, so now all of a sudden you wanna get in it and drive it, ujue mileage iko aje. What this shows and why it resonates globally is how financial pressure quietly disciplines behavior. When the cost for survival is higher than shining, then virtue now starts to make sense. Now, from these points, the conversation takes a dark turn. A man, a Kenyan man decides to solve the problem of temptation by cutting it off. Literally, cutting it off.
I think this is the most unique case that I have seen so far this year. It's a young man in his early 20s who is studying theology in college, whose parents brought him to hospital. His balls were literally swollen, filled with blood. The history here is that this guy wanted to become a eunuch, but that I told you that he studies theology. So he went on to a local chemist. He bought lidocaine, which is a local anesthetic. He then went on and injected it to his balls. The moment the lidocaine kicked in, he cut off his testicles, literally performing a bilateral lochidectomy on himself in the name of wanting to become a eunuch. Right? What? The parents are the ones who traveled all the way to bring him to hospital. Unfortunately, we could not put the balls back because it was way more than 24 hours. The balls had stayed for so long without oxygen and blood, right? So unfortunately, he will actually might end up being sterile because we were not able to reattach the balls. And I just wanted to remind you that mental illness is really, it's actually a typical case of religious psychosis. I'm just here to remind you, I don't have the time to discuss all the nitty-gritties because I'm working right now, but I just wanted to remind you that mental illness is real. The next time you see someone acting in a bizarre manner, take time to listen to them, to understand them. And if you don't understand it, sometimes you can ask someone in your space who's a healthcare professional. And if they think that the person can meet a certain mental illness criteria, please don't hesitate. Take them to hospital and let them get the help they need. Yeah.
It is so rare for men to usually get what they want in this economic period, in this age. But this guy actually got what he wanted. And ni crazy. Hapa hivi on this channel, we usually emphasize on how religious is the source of mental psychosis. Now this guy, because of going through a few pages of theology, theological understanding, he decided to become a eunuch. And for those of us who don't know what that is, search engine inadai hivi. A eunuch is a male who has been castrated, often for religious reasons, to serve a specific social or religious function. Historically, this was common in ancient Greece, where priests of certain cults, such as the cult of the goddess Cybele, were required to self-castrate. The term can also refer to someone who remains naturally chaste or practices celibacy for spiritual reasons. Hao ndio watu wenye tunaitanga in these generations incels, people who are involuntarily celibate, but in this case it's supposed to be voluntarily and ikuwe na some religious connotations around it. Even in the West, this pops up. People chasing purity through pain, going under the knife. That is what I actually mean. And they do all this just for cheap validation. Tumeona mara ngapi watu wengi wakienda kupata these things known as BBLs. How many times have we seen men elongate themselves by cutting their iboni ya mguu so that they may insert a nail ama a metal in between, and they actually gain a little inches na height yao inafika maybe to some 6 feet, only to look absurd when you look at the whole proportion of how they look like. The body will always become a battlefield if you don't know how to face it. And you face it in various ways. Various ways like taking care of yourselves, like controlling the things in your environment. Don't just consume information without being critical of what the information is trying to input in your mind. Sometimes just think for yourself. And just when we thought Kenya could not get any more fearless, the High Court challenges Bill Gates' immunity, citing vaccine-linked fertility concerns.
Creating things that can destroy the sovereignty of Africa. We cannot afford to trust WHO anymore, Your Excellency. And I'll just mention a few things that have caused great concern to us. In 2014-2015, WHO brought tetanus eradication campaign in our country. There was a campaign to eradicate neonatal tetanus, babies who are born who eventually get tetanus. And the vaccine that was used is a different type of a tetanus vaccine that is a fertility regulating vaccine, where they take tetanus and combine it with a hormone called human chorionic gonadotropin that supports pregnancy. And when you inject a woman with that vaccine, she produces antibodies against.
Kenya's High Court has suspended Bill Gates' immunity from prosecution, targeting the Gates Foundation alleged exploitation of Africans. Distrust in World Health Organization vaccine grows, with claims of fertility damage echoing a 2014 tetanus scandal involving HCG-laced shots. Across Africa, from Nigeria to Ethiopia, outrage over infertility and corporate control fuels a continent-wide demand for accountability. Think about this situation yote. The Gates Foundation have poured millions into the African health programs, but the question is, do people actually trust these people? Do they trust that they have the best interest, the Africans ama Kenyans' best interest at heart, or are they here for their own benefit? Most people will say that these foundations have used Kenyans as a testing ground for things that they are not even going to apply in their own countries. Ni crazy. When you combine all this information that we have watched on this video, you will realize that there is a strategic design in operation. These things are not just happening normally. There is one thing that is the main point, and on the other side, there are these little things that are meant to throw you off course and make you focus on things that continue to divide us and not keep us in unity. If you found this wild and thought-provoking, remember to like the video and subscribe to the channel for more videos like these ones. Also, YouTube thinks you might be interested in the video on your screen at the moment. Click on that video. I'm waiting to see you on the next one.